Today, we are tackling a topic that can be a bit of a puzzle for many music teachers out there, and that is creating the ultimate tuition plan. Because we all know that teaching music is our passion, but it's also our livelihood. And sometimes navigating the financial aspects can sometimes be as challenging as mastering a complex piece of music. So we need the ultimate tuition plan, and we're about to reveal that today. I'm Glory St. Germain, and welcome to the Ultimate Music Teachers Live Show as we dive deep into the world of mastering your music teaching business so you can elevate, educate, and enrich the musical lives of your students, one note at a time. I'm thrilled to be joined by my co-host, the incredible Joanne Barker. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I'm sure everybody else can relate. It's the first week back to teaching, so we're maybe a little more tired than we normally would be. But hey, it's been a fabulous week so far. So I'm just so happy to be here so we can discuss all these topics and help teachers navigate the music education business. And today we've got a really essential topic to discuss. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And also, so you can catch the Ultimate Music Teachers Live Show every week because we're going to be here. Also, make sure you join our thriving community of music educators in our Ultimate Music Teachers Facebook group. And don't forget to visit our website at ultimatemusicteachers.com for valuable resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Joanne. The topic that can be puzzling for many music teachers is the business of teaching music. And teaching is our passion, as we all know. And as music entrepreneurs, we also need to tackle the business side of making decisions, just like any business, right? Just about setting our rates, planning our financial year ahead, expenses, and of course, the list goes on. And it can be overwhelming at times. As you said, we can be tired. There's so many moving parts in our businesses, but no matter how long you've been teaching, we all have these issues in our business. So today, Joanne, let's dive into the 5 tips for creating your ultimate tuition plan. So let's start with tip number 1. Are you ready, Joanne?
I'm ready.
All right. Tip number 1, and it's a crucial one at that, is setting your lesson rates. So Joanne, what factors should music teachers consider when determining, how much to charge their clients? And I just want to reiterate that clients are parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, or students themselves. Whoever is paying for the lesson is known as your client. So help us out, Joanne.
Well, there's a few factors you need to take into consideration, such as location, where you live. It's really good to know what the rate is in your area. If you live in New York City, for instance, where they're paying $25,000 a year in property taxes, your lesson rates are going to be a little different than if you live in a small rural community out where I am, where, our expenses aren't quite as high. You need to think about your qualifications. Do you have a master's degree? Do you have 40 years of teaching experience? So you need to kind of explore the competitive landscape to establish a fair rate that reflects the teacher's expertise and the local market conditions. You don't want to be that teacher that's, charging $15 a lesson and looking like you're undercutting everybody else. We want to keep it in a fair playing ground across the board.
Yeah, it's very true, Joanne. We need to also charge, I always say, charge what you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to undercut your lesson fees to think that, oh, well, if I'm a little bit cheaper, I'll just be attracting all these students, right? But it doesn't really work that way. So let's really establish this is going to be my lesson fee. And I often say, explore who's charging the most in your area and go with it, right? You're just as worthy as they are. So tip number 2 is to plan for the financial year ahead. And so many times we just think about scheduling, but now we want to talk about the financing. So financial planning is essential for any business, including, of course, the business of teaching music. So how can teachers effectively plan their finances for the upcoming year to ensure that there's stability and there's also growth, Joanne?
Well, I am a huge fan of spreadsheets. Quite honestly, for about 20 years now, I've set myself up with a master spreadsheet at the beginning of my lesson year. I treat my business like a fiscal year from September through till the next August. So I make sure that I spread the money over all that time. So I know what is coming in. I know what I need to leave in the bank account to go out. And then I can know what I can enjoy and maybe treat myself to something like a, a nice dinner out or something. We need to know what money we need when. So we need to have a roadmap for success for that year ahead. Because if you just kind of go with it, you might not have the money you need at the end of the year, right?
Absolutely. That's a great point. So strategies for budgeting, for saving, setting your financial goals, and you nailed it, Joanne. And I think sometimes we wonder, what should we charge for these lessons? But we also need to put our plan together that includes managing expenses, because running a music teaching business involves various expenses. It's just not like, oh, I just teach and I don't need anything, because there's charges for recitals. Then there's materials. Some of us, like to purchase the materials for our students, and then we can charge our students to make sure they got the right stuff. Then there's also equipment rental. And sometimes there's space that you're renting. And I know you're one of those teachers that also has that expense. So how can teachers keep track of these expenses in check without compromising the quality of education they're providing, Joanne?
Well, you need to look for cost-effective approaches to manage those expenses. For me, I've created an annual tuition structure. So that's just been my saving grace all the way through. I start planning when I do spring registration, so I know what's coming up. And like I said, that spreadsheet, I am a visual learner. Wow. Yes, I am. So if I don't have that spreadsheet in front of me to know what's expected when, like, as I said before, we really need to know what costs we have coming up. Maybe you had a whole bunch of people pay you in full for the year, which I do, fortunately. But can I spend that money? No, we need to know what the annual tuition is and where I need to apply that money. And the annual tuition structure has just been a lifesaver for me. And I've done it for years, and it really works.
It really does. So tip number 3, for those of you taking notes, tip number 3 is create an annual tuition structure. Now, this is the exciting part, and that is how to create an annual tuition structure. So what should teachers consider when designing a tuition plan? So when we talk about this annual tuition structure, it means encompassing all the costs that are incurred in your business. And now that you've identified your lesson fee, that was our tip number 1, putting it all together. How does that work? And it really helps both you as a teacher and also your clients. So can you fill us in, Joanne?
Yeah, what you need to do is you need to decide how many lessons you're going to teach. I didn't say how many lessons the student's going to have, did I? I said how many lessons you're going to teach. Decide on your materials. What materials do you want for the year? And if they need additional materials, you include that in your registration form, which of course you'll be using a registration form, hopefully. You include that if they need additional materials, that will cost extra. So what I do with mine is I set the number of lessons I'm going to teach, their material fee, I charge for the recital, and I add a slight administrative fee in there. So you need to add all of that together. Think about all the other activities students do, like hockey or dance or cheer, whatever they take. It's an annual structure that they pay. They don't pay by the week. And I think that's been the most difficult thing for teachers, is to understand that we need to stop looking at the week by week and start looking at teaching by the year. And if students miss a lesson, they don't get a makeup lesson. Yeah, the annual tuition fee is just a lifesaver.
Yeah. So let's break that down. When you are planning your annual tuition fee, you've decided this is the fee that your hourly rate, you're thinking about that, of course. Then you're adding in all your other expenses, and then you're going to take that full amount of the tuition fee and say, here's my annual tuition fee. Right. And it really brings us, and it's so simple. I mean, anyone can do this, right? We're all music educators. We can all figure this out. So it brings us to the ultimate tuition plan, tip number 4. And I know you've implemented both of these, Joanne, and that is pay in full options and payment plans. So taking your annual tuition fee and then offering a pay in full option puts money in your bank account right now. And then also having these flexible payment options, 2 payments or 3 payments, it's really crucial, right, Joanne? So that you can accommodate your clients' needs, but also finding that right balance. So how can teachers strike the balance between pay in full options and payment plans to accommodate their client preferences?
Well, I've been doing this for quite a while now. And if I can be absolutely honest with you, one year I had a really big income tax bill to pay. And I thought, oh, how am I going to manage this? That's the year I decided to offer the pay in full at spring registration. And, out of 50 students this year, I had 28 opt for that. It's so convenient for them because it's a one and done.
Yep.
And it's so convenient for us because then we're not spending time collecting money. So the benefits of both approaches, when you design that annual tuition fee with a set policy, and you need to make sure you stick to that policy, it's going to save you time, it's going to make you money, and it's going to provide easy options for the clients. My clients really like knowing that I'm going to send them, if they're on a monthly payment plan, I'm going to send them a reminder email a week before. I don't write an invoice. I just send a little reminder saying, payments are due on the 15th. If you need a reminder of the amount, let me know. And most of them don't have to ask for that amount, but it's just parents like it. One family asked, can we pay in 12 installments to spread the payments out over the year? And I said, of course you can. So you offer them options that fit with their budget. What I'm finding is about 90% of the new students are paying in full because that seems to be the mindset of the parents. And it's just so nice to not have to worry about tracing fees. Let's face it, we're teachers. We're music teachers. Yeah. We're not accountants. We're not bookkeepers, but that's part of our job, isn't it? So if we can make that aspect of our job a little easier, it's just so nice.
Yeah. I think one of the things too that you just said, Joanne, is like when you offer a pay in full option, you can also have an incentive in there, give them $20 off or something, just because pay in full is one and done. And it is worth your $20 because now you don't have to be hounding them all the time. I think the other thing too is that when you structure your lesson fees so that this is your annual fee, or you can do 2 payments, or as we said, you could do 3, but it's not by week. Don't bring me a check every week or give me cash every week. It gets overwhelming. And especially when you have a big studio, and if you've got, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, even 50 students, that's a lot of paperwork. So we want to use the KISS method. Keep it super simple, right, Joanne?
Oh, totally. I remember back when I was teaching over 100 kids before we were doing e-transfers, and it was all checks. And oh my goodness, that was a lot of writing. I think now 2 people pay me by check. Here in Canada, we have e-transfers, which people have really picked up on. And in the States, you might use PayPal or something like that, whatever your option is that you're using. It makes it so much easier. And I do charge a slight little administrative fee, and I take the deduction for the pay in full option out of that because my administrative work for them is done. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant, Joanne. I like how you said that. So there's an admin fee. If you do the pay in full, you take the admin fee out.
Or a portion of that admin fee, not even the whole amount. I think my biggest deduction this year, I give them $30 off for pay in full option.
Yep. It's brilliant. Brilliant. So that brings us to tip number 5. So tip number 5 is communication and transparency. So clear communication is really the key when it comes to all these financial matters. People want to know what the heck's going on, right? And so, Joanne, how can teachers maintain transparency with their clients and ensure that everybody's on the same page regarding payments and expectations?
Communication strategies that foster trust and open dialogue is really important. You need to be really upfront about this. When I send out a registration package, the first page is explaining the registration process. The second page are the studio policies. The third page are the financials. So whether they read them or not, they at least have to go past them to get to the registration form and the payment options. So in an email, when I'm sending that email back, I always put a reminder that lessons missed by students are not made up for any reason. Lessons that I cancel. So you reiterate those really important things. Yeah. Do people ask for makeup lessons? Of course they do. And what do I say when they do? I'll let you know if a spot opens up. Right. So we need to really keep the communication open. You need to be upfront. Don't surprise them and say, well, I don't do makeup lessons. Right. Make sure they know that going into it.
Yeah. And I think in this digital age and technology, it can really be a game changer for how we're managing our finances and also how we're managing our schedules, right? And as you said, be upfront, say, here's how it works. Here's how it works. It works, right? So we want to really harness the power of technology, really streamline our finances and how we're going to collect our annual fees, whether we're going to do payment plans and whether we're going to do makeup lessons in a certain time frame, right? So there's a lot of variables in there. So what are your thoughts, Joanne, on really streamlining these systems?
Well, there's a lot of tools out there right now. I've even seen some bank commercials that are talking about getting your savings plan started, and you can do a savings tracker. As I said, I'm a fan of Excel spreadsheets, and I'm becoming a huge fan of Google Sheets because I can access that on my laptop here. I can access it on my iPad here. I don't use it for my phone yet, but on my desktop computer. So you can look at those finances whenever you need to make sure that you're on track. Once when my computer went down on me and I couldn't access my financial records, and I felt like I was like wallowing in this world of the unknown. We need to be able to see it. Especially if you're a visual learner, you need to have a record book, a Google Sheet, something to keep track of it. You need to know what's coming in, what's expected to come in, and we do have to stay on top of that. What I would suggest is set aside a time every week where you're looking at that, like an hour on a Thursday morning or maybe a Friday morning, to check and make sure all those are in. That annual tuition plan works, but we need to nurture it and make sure that it's running right. And it's just going to make your life so much easier and more profitable.
100%. Yeah. Thanks so much, Joanne. And, I invite our viewers to share in the chat, your thoughts. Are you using an annual tuition plan? What are you implementing into your business to streamline? What tools are you using? What makes your life easier? And when we share, this is what we're all about, Joanne. You mentioned our Ultimate Music Teachers Facebook group. We're inviting all of our viewers to join that if you haven't already. But when we really look at our business plan, this is how we learn. We nurture our relationships with fellow teachers and share ideas. And I invite you to share in the chat, what are you doing to simplify the financial aspect of your business? Sometimes we talk about teaching, but today we're talking about the ultimate tuition plan. So let's do a quick recap. Tip number 1 was setting your lesson rates. And remember, be profitable. Tip number 2 is plan for the financial year ahead. And there you want to be proactive, right, Joanne? You want to be thinking ahead. Tip number 3 is create an annual tuition structure. You want to be prepared, right? For those of you taking notes. Haha. Tip number 4 is the pay in full options and payment plans. Be positive because, as Joanne said, it works, right, Joanne?
It works.
It works. Finally, tip number 5 is communication and transparency. Be progressive, like move your music business forward, right? You got this. We're here for you. And I want to say thank you for joining us on the Ultimate Music Teachers live show. Joanne and I are having a blast with you, and we hope you found our discussion today on mastering your music teaching business valuable and insightful. So thanks, Joanne.
And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore and learn in the world of music education, and we're here to help guide you every step of the way.
100%. We're here together, Joanne. Thank you. Before we go, don't forget, subscribe to our Ultimate Music Theory YouTube channel for more incredible content. Be sure to join our Ultimate Music Teachers Facebook group where you can connect with fellow educators. We can't wait to dive in and see what the comments are from you. And make sure to, dive in and enjoy the conversations.
And make sure you head over to ultimatemusicteachers.com to grab your free resources and access even more information. It's all out there for you.
It's all there for you. Once again, thank you so much for being part of the music education community. Keep making beautiful music and inspiring the next generations of musicians. So till next time, teach with passion.
Bye.
Bye now.